my own personal filmmaking to do this work, to help be a bridge and a connector between extraordinary creative leaders across this country and around the world. It's mind-boggling. We have a lot of, you talked about entrepreneurship, and I know the work that y'all are doing to help artists live a sustainable life is something that the Alliance is focusing on this year. Our 2 tentpole programs are going to be these HatchLabs, as well as this new Arts to Work initiative. And I'm really looking forward to bringing you all into Arts to Work as it develops, because we're looking to open up some deep revenue streams and new infrastructure and scaffolding for artists to have the same kind of support that young doctors have, you know, as they move through their life choices. So thank you for that inspiration. But HatchLabs has been really the program that has helped reinvigorate the Alliance over the last few years. And it started out from a single grant from the Rockefeller Foundation. And what it has turned into, I mean, it started out because Rockefeller Foundation developed a site called Hatch for Good that was about helping nonprofit organizations become better storytellers. And I was lucky enough to help them develop that site and build it. They flew a bunch of us to Italy, and we just talked about how to make better storytellers. And I was like, this is a nice gig right here for a week. But then we got back, and they had this beautiful site, and they were a little disappointed that there wasn't enough traction in it. Even with small grants, their grantees weren't jumping into it. And they started to realize that there was a big gap between wanting to, you know, deepen their impact through storytelling and the capacity to do that. And so I'm like, well, we need to jumpstart this. And it's not only about building relationships, about building capacity at the organization, but it's building those relationships between organizations working to do good and working for social justice, and the artists and the storytellers that can help make that happen. There's no reason to, you know, to bring a false sense of, you know, artistry into a nonprofit that's really about activism. It's like, what about these relationships? So we gave birth to HatchLabs, which is an intensive, we think about them, one of our HatchLab participants kind of coined our phrase that a HatchLab is a part mind-blowing story workshop and part vision quest. And we see it as an engine for creative change. And what happens with the HatchLabs is that we are looking to reimagine storytelling within a social justice context. So if we think about, but it's also intensely creative. And so it's this kind of a workshop that facilitates cross-sector relationships, you know, between creatives and nonprofits, but it also brings in scientists and civic leaders. We often get, you know, our last HatchLab, we had someone from the Philadelphia mayor's office, the actual vice mayor of Philadelphia, stayed for the entire day. And so now when projects coming across her desk, she knows where they came from, and she knows the people and can now sort of invest in them more carefully. And so we look to end extractive storytelling and replace it with responsive storytelling and inclusive storytelling. We don't believe in artists dropping into communities and telling the stories of the people. We believe that the most powerful stories are told by those who live them. And so we look to forge those new kinds of understandings where artists can actually, they are still the directors of their piece of art, but they're actually co-authoring it with their subjects. And what does that look like? And you have to practice that. So we often have award-winning filmmakers in the room going, whoa, what? But then we also have community members who are like, I want to tell my story. Can you help me? And it becomes a day of tears and excitement and potential. And we do them locally. So we're building local networks, and we've done them in many cities across the country now. And we're starting to see some traction because after the labs, we invest in, we do some mini grants. So people who came through those labs who now have a new relationship with the notion of collaboration and co-creation can come to the table as a collaborative team and say, this is what we'd like to do in our city for our people. And we're looking to support those, you know, through mentorship and grants, and hopefully just, you know, I see it as a new model of social reform, but right now we're really working on emboldening the voices of artists and communities to work together.
Thank you very much for that overview, Wendy. And I also want to say welcome to Om, who has joined us. Welcome, Om. If you want to take a quick moment and introduce yourself, say your name, say what hat you're wearing right this second, and maybe what a dream you have is for 2020. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Om.
Oh my God. Okay. This is the hand. I know you were waving my way. It was so good to see you, buddy. And that phenomenal opening, Wendy. I think I came out the most appropriate time with that excitement. Now, I didn't hear what you were saying because I was plugging in my earphones as you were talking, Jason, so I apologize. But I'm sure that you want me to introduce myself. Is that correct?
Yeah, your name,
okay.
What hat you're wearing, and then a dream you have for 2020.
Oh, wow. I love that. What hat I'm wearing. Is that correct?
That is correct. Can be any hat.
I love that. Wow. Okay. It's so funny because I was going to put on my hat, but I'm just going to be me thoroughly through and through. All right. So my name is Om Boogie. It means creating joy at all times. The hat I'm wearing is Today is Liberation. I'm totally freaking free. And what else what was the last question? I forgot, Jason.
A dream you have for 2020.
Oh gosh, dream I have for 2020. Well, that's what I'm working towards that right now, is a more harmonious place of healing where people can feel like their differences are what makes us so powerful and unique. That's my dream.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Alrighty, so a little bit about HatchLab Youth. So Wendy and the Alliance, along with incredible partners, have been doing these HatchLabs in a variety of different places and locations. And about March of this year, Wendy was like, let's do something with young people too, and let's work with emerging filmmakers, and let's take a look at how do we help not just work with emerging filmmakers, but how do we take a look at two diverse, distinct communities, work with them, and then bring those two communities together? Specifically, how do we work with youth that are growing up in more of a rural setting, and how do we work with youth that are growing up in a more urban setting? And so we partnered with the Appalachian Media Institute and with RYSE Youth Center here in Richmond, California. And I facilitated two labs for emerging filmmakers, one at AMI and one at RYSE. So I had the absolute joyous pleasure of going to Whitesburg, Kentucky, which is, in all honesty, completely stolen my heart. And I talk about it all the time. All the time. And then was able to also do it over at RYSE Youth Center. The goal of the HatchLabs really that I've been working on is how do we take a look at our multiple and intersecting identities? How do we explore what our values are, and how do we communicate about those values in very complex ways so as not to reduce people down to a single particular narrative of who they are? And then from that place, how do we then bring two diverse and different groups of people together, emerging filmmakers and emerging artists together, in order to have a shared experience that gets rooted and grounded in shared values, in complexity, and in intersecting identities that will then yield pluralistic narratives that help bridge urban and rural emerging artists and emerging filmmakers. So it's a little bit of a different kind of tactic than the overall HatchLabs in general, which has really focused on one particular place and bringing multiple stakeholders from that place together. This has been really about looking at the internal capacity development through very much a whole person lens. I'm very much like a whole person kind of person versus just like we're only looking at it from storytelling lens. That's why we brought in identity and values. And then the lab actually resulted in 1-minute videos from both labs. So every single person in the lab made a 1-minute video. It was kind of surprising because everyone was like, oh my God, it's not gonna happen. And then it actually happened. Everyone made a 1-minute video at the end of the day, which is really awesome. And so I want to kick it over to Dan first to share a little bit about what the experience was like at RYSE. And then I'm going to kick it over to Oakley and Kate and have them share a little bit about what the experience was like for them at AMI. Dan.
Cool. Yeah, so I just want to say before sharing about the experience, thank you so much. And it's really been, I think, eye-opening for us to collaborate with the Alliance on this. And then also, and I know I shared this yesterday, I think you were here yesterday, right, Jason? Was that yesterday?
Monday,
The day. But I shared this with you at that time. Like, I really appreciate how you hold space and facilitate all the things that we do with you. So I just want to kind of put that out there. I mean, some reflections on the lab. I mean, it was powerful. It was a really great opportunity for young folks and adult allies here at RYSE to come together in a very unique way. You know, it's a group that spends a lot of time together, but not necessarily in those types of spaces. And you know, there's times when the adults here, they bring their creativity, and we always try to bring our whole selves, but to have 10 hours where we are being our whole selves side by side with the young folks that we work with on a daily basis, I just think it was that intergenerational component was tremendously powerful. And where we generally do that here, very rarely is it such an intense, focused time that we can come together and share that experience with one another. So that was definitely something that stood out to me. Really great to see youth leaders from both labs co-develop the curriculum with you, Jason. I know I shared that in my written reflection. There was one activity that I thought was really powerful. I shared with Jason. This is great. It's like, you know, like started with RYSE, and just through the organic creative process, it wasn't immediately recognizable as a workshop that we do here at RYSE, because it had gone through some iteration. And when it came back, it had turned into something even more amazing and even more beautiful. So that's definitely standing out to me. I did not understand how we were going to produce 15 one-minute videos in the amount of time we had, but we did it. And people had a really good time doing it, so myself included. So that was really cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what's standing out to me. Oh, and then one last thing. We went really deep, really fast. I mean, we were very quickly into deep conversations about religion, about identities, race identities, politics around gender. I mean, we really went deep. We really went fast. And not everybody in our group necessarily feels the same way about those things. And the way that we were able to kind of hold brave space and safe space and brave space, I just thought was really, really powerful. And everybody leaned in, and we had some honest personal conversations, and I thought it was great. So that's kind of what's coming to mind.
Thank you so much, Dan. Yeah, I just want, before I kick it over to Oakley and to Kate, I do want to provide a little bit of clarification. The labs were actually co-designed between myself and two different youth leaders, one from RYSE, Jamikia, and one from AMI, Tristan. So in the lead up to the labs, it was actual planning and conversations between myself and the emerging filmmakers from two organizations to be able to ensure that there was pieces of both organizations contained pedagogically in the lab itself, so that it did, again, kind of going back to Wendy's point about ending extractive storytelling, how do we as facilitators take a moment to actually listen, to hear what's actually happening in the particular locations in which that we are actually about to step into, and how do we help deepen the work that is already in existence. And so that was really something I think that was really beautiful in leading up to the lab. At both AMI and at RYSE. So I'm going to kick it over to Oakley and to Kate to talk a little bit about it from their end of things.
Awesome, and we're gonna talk into our phones since our internet is wonky. You want to go?
So I really enjoyed the lab. I'm very honored to be a part of it. I enjoyed all the activities. I'm probably gonna butcher that, the Zoop, however you said it.
Which one was it?
The one like where where we had back Zoop,
Oh, the bip boop.
Oh, yeah.
Boppity.
Sorry, see, I knew I was going to.
Yeah, we definitely stole that one for our summer.
And it was also exciting, to discuss, real deep topics. Politics and religion are usually the two topics that you should not mix into anything, and it worked because everyone's respectful, and as long as someone's respectful, I love to sit down and hear differing opinions. And also the video exercise was fun, though I did have to leave early, so I had to send mine like a couple weeks later, I think.
Yeah, just going off of what Oakley was saying, I was like there are so many things that were really exciting about this workshop to me that I was like trying to like write them down in front of me so I didn't forget anything. But to definitely echo both Dan and Oakley, well, first, I really like that exercise, the bippity, boopity, whatever it was called. That was really great. The first thing I'd like to say is just that we have worked with facilitators who weren't from Whitesburg, Kentucky, and in the past, I think there's sometimes been a lot of skepticism and hesitation and like differing styles of facilitation, and everybody just loved Jason, which was pretty huge for me. It was like the facilitation was incredible, and Jason is also just like defiantly and unbelievably himself. And everybody was just really open and excited and honest, and there was no hesitation with our communication. People spoke really freely, which I thought was amazing and really beautiful. I think also the outcomes that came from the workshop for us is that we were able to go, like Dan said, really deep, really fast. And it made me realize that I think that as we work towards our strategic planning this year for the next 3 years, that I think we really need to build in more of these intentional, deep conversations into our programming on a more regular basis. So I'd say that is a pretty direct outcome from the workshop. And it's beautiful because it's intrinsic to the media that we're producing, these conversations and these stories. So I see a really direct connection between the two. And one of the other really beautiful things about this lab is that we were about to start our 29th Summer Documentary Institute. And each year we bring on youth leadership into a new position. So I was able to speak with Dan ahead of time and Jason ahead of time and say like, hey, we have new staff coming in. We also had just hired a new position at AMI. I'd really like to use this as an opportunity for professional development for our incoming youth. And so it really beautifully folded in. Not only did we get our hands on media equipment, but we really talked about inclusion and diversity and problem solving and open communication. And so it was more than just like, it wasn't disconnected from the work that we were about to head into, which is really important to me. It really aligned with what we were already doing. And another really cool part of it, and Dan and I have talked about this a lot since the HatchLab, is that Jason forced us to make a film too and be a part of it and to like be on the ground collaborating side by side and answering hard questions, not as experts, but in community with our youth, which was really beautiful and really profound. And one of our lead educators, Mikey, his film is one of my all-time favorite things I've ever seen that he produced. I've watched it like 50 times. It's hilarious. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And I think that it opened up the door for us moving forward, where we've really been approaching the space in a different way, where we're thinking of it more as a maker space that's open for youth and for us. And so we can come in and we're silk screening t-shirts side by side, or we're working on art and media pieces together, and where Mikey and Willa and I really feel excited about the creative process and feel like we have space here to actually be inventive and be making things on a daily basis and not just writing grants or reports or bashing our face into the desk for hours. So I'm really excited about what's to come. We're going to go to Chicago and see the folks from the Alliance and get to finally meet all the young people from RYSE. And I think it's just going to be an incredible, beautiful experience. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kate and Oakley. So what's coming next for the HatchLab is both RYSE and AMI, along with Maya, myself, and Wendy, are going to be coming to Chicago, which we're really excited about in November. And we're going to be having a full-day lab on November 2nd, just with AMI, RYSE, and the Alliance. And then on November 3rd, we're going to have the Alliance's Youth Media Summit, The Dream Is Now. And we're going to be working with a variety of additional partners, including Chicago Youth Voices Network. I'm chatting with Chicago public school teachers today, as well as support from Free Spirit Media and a variety of other partners that we were able to connect with as a result of being in Chicago for the National Association for Media Literacy Educators Conference, which I will tell you a little bit about more in just a second. But I'm cognizant of time, and the issue is coming out soon. And Maya has been doing incredible work to produce The Issue, which is a new intergenerational magazine featuring contributions from youth media makers across the world that is working towards a future and a community in which all can belong and all do belong. And so I'm going to kick it over to Maya to share a little bit about what is The Issue. Maya.
Well, you kind of summed it up right there. Yeah, no, The Issue is a brand new magazine created by Jason and I and our guest editor, Gabby Taylor, who interned with us for the summer. She's at Princeton. But it's a new arts magazine with the goals of inspiring and striking empathy in its readers. And we try to get a lot of stories everywhere geographically, diversity in terms of ethnicity and age, of course, it's intergenerational, in terms of what our stories are. That's pretty much it. I mean, Jason kind of summed it up. So this is our mission that we came up with that Wendy confirmed. The Issue is a new intergenerational arts magazine produced in collaboration with youth media makers around the world, designed to inspire a creative future where we all belong.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what the kind of central theme for our first publication happens to be, and what are some of the articles that we've actually commissioned from even some of the folks that are on this call right now?
Yes. So the central theme for this issue of The Issue is Dear Diary. All the stories are very personal. All the stories are connected to a personal experience. So, for example, we have a article written by Iza Anwar. She's a UC Merced student, and she's writing about her Ramadan experience this past Ramadan. We have Oakley, who answered some questions for me about his horror films. He's our youth artist spotlight for this issue. We also have Gabby Taylor is talking about the misappropriation of social justice culture, which is kind of a think piece opinion article that's kind of research backed. Those are just a few examples. We have, of course, video, audio. It's a multimedia project. So we have video, audio, photography. We want to incorporate some illustration and, of course, a lot of written pieces. We have think pieces, poems. Oh my goodness, it's so much. Articles. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And we have a lot of people on the call who are contributing. Like Lucia has helped me edit some pieces. We have Michelle from NAMLE, not on this call, but she wrote a really great personal reflective story that I don't want to give too many details about because it's really good. You have to read it. But that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Maya. I think that's a great summary of it. Just to give a little bit of the history of where this actually comes from. So we had a partnership with Youth Media Reporter, and we published our first publication with them called The Special Issue, which was a special issue of Youth Media Reporter where we had accepted submissions from all across the country in any form. It was loosely curated, but not heavily curated, because it was an open call for submissions, and we put everything into the YMR site. In the partnership with YMR, it was a beautiful partnership that resulted in some really quality pieces that ended up being published on their site. And what we realized is in the publication process that we want something that ends up being a little bit more visual. It's not just so article heavy, but actually has a clear aesthetic, and that is a little bit more curated, and has a little bit deeper of a narrative and focus in terms of storytelling. And so this summer, Maya, myself, and as she mentioned, Gabby Taylor. Gabby was an intern with us that came to us through Princeton, and they have a Princeton internship program where their alumni association was so gracious and gave us a grant to pay Gabby 40 hours a week to work with us this summer in order to get this off the ground, which was really wonderful. And so really, I'm really impressed. Again, this has really been intergenerational. So Maya stepped up into the editor-in-chief role. Gabby came on as the guest editor for the summer in order for us to help focus and outreach to folks. And we're now in the process of collecting everything in order to publish it ourselves, again, so that we can have a little bit more of a clear visual aesthetic that really gets not just adults to read, but also inspires young people to pick up something and take a look at it and really dive deeply into it. So I'm really excited about the publication that's coming out. And we have stuff coming from actual SpyHop as well, has some pieces that are going in, which is really exciting. And so we have Black Millennials podcast, which is two folks that also are connected with Free Spirit Media. They have their own podcast, they're submitting stuff. And so I'm really thrilled that we are going to be publishing this in November, December. And we're going to be launching, we're actually going to be previewing the issue at the Youth Media Summit that we're going to be at in Chicago on November 3rd. So you'll get an opportunity to get a little bit of a taste of what it is. Naya and Jamikia from RYSE are submitting stuff. I just double checked in with them yesterday. So it's really, really exciting. Additionally, I will share, because I'm seeing the chat and it's hard for me to like facilitate and hold space and type in chat. So I'm just going to name this outright. I'm happy to share the curriculum from the HatchLab. Really, this has been a co-creative process, which means to me that it is open and it has continued to be co-creative. So if you want access to the curriculum, I'm super detailed. So literally the curriculum is written out word for word, so you can follow it very easily. If you would like to look at that curriculum in a read access only arena, I'm happy to share that with you. Please just leave a comment in the chat section and I'll make sure to share it with you. So that's a little bit about that. Finally, I'm going to move on to civic participation in media literacy very, very quickly. Sally Tamayo-Lee, Emily Balin-Wells, and I co-facilitated a pre-conference on media literacy and civic participation for the National Association for Media Literacy Educators Conference that happened at Roosevelt University this past June in Chicago. That pre-conference was actually an intergenerational pre-conference. One of the things and one of the themes you're going to be hearing from Maya and I is everything we do, for the most part, for the media field is intergenerational. We believe in creating spaces in which and adults can come together in order to explore, learn, share, build, and create together. We think that that's really important. We know that the work of youth media and the youth media industry is really focused on youth voice, and that is beautiful, and that is exciting, and that is crucial. And we believe that the best infrastructure helps support an intergenerational perspective to allow more cultivation of youth voice. That is pretty much why we do it in the way that we do it. So the pre-conference, we partnered again with Chicago Youth Voices Network and Free Spirit Media, and then namely reached out to Chicago public school teachers, because Chicago public schools actually got a big grant to be teaching civic participation this year in their schools. So we had all of the civics teachers actually at the pre-conference with us. They brought some young people. Free Spirit Media brought a whole crew of folks, including a whole crew of young people. It was really, really beautiful. We had over 60 people that were actually in purple for the entire time. And we did 6 hours of facilitative experiences, including an opening circle in which everyone told their story in poetic form. We did a 50-state dinner party project lunch. So check out the Alliance's website for this 50-state dinner party project, but it was all about our desired futures and how do we have conversations and how do we connect across age around our desired futures. Those desired futures, we actually got a brainstorm list, and then we narrowed down to 3 desired futures that we would like to see as a community. And then we broke up into small groups in a lab where people took a look at those desired futures and actually created plans for how to actually get to those desired futures, and taking a look at the resources that are currently available that help pave the way towards those desired futures. It was all like open and user-generated content. So we had processes, but we got a lot of information. Bye, Maya. Have a good class. So we had got a lot of incredible information that got brought in from people of all ages and across the country. So it was not just Chicago folks. It had a good showing of Chicago folks, because it's my belief that when we go into a city, if we're going to do something, that city need to be present. Again, going back to Wendy's non-extractive storytelling, that if we're going to be in Chicago, Chicago better be the majority of the people in the room. And so that was really what we did with the pre-conference, and really weighting it with voices from folks in Chicago. But we also had Alliance members there as well. So Gabby from Spy Hop was actually in the room and participated. Ariel from Philly Cam happened to be there as well, and a variety of other folks were there. And it was a really beautiful experience. Right now, Sally, Emily, and I are working on pulling together an entire report that's going to share the findings that we gathered during the pre-conference, as well as making some recommendations from those findings. And then we're also going to be sharing all of the back-end curriculum as well for the actual pre-conference. And it's going to be in a very visually nicely designed package that will be also launched at our Youth Media Summit in Chicago on November 3rd. And will correlate with the National Association for NAMLE's Media Literacy Week, which is the following week. So we're really excited to kind of be taking a look at partnerships and how we sustain our partnerships in ways that continue to build collectivism, plurality, and intergenerational voice. So that's really what we're doing, and I'm really excited. It is 1 minute to 11, and so I'm going to have us do a quick check-in circle before heading over to Chakka and Lucia to talk about Free Spirit Media and the incredible Pathways project that they have going on. For this check-in circle, very quickly, just say one word or one short phrase about what you've heard, or how it's sitting or landing in your body, or something that it might be sparking in your head, but keep it to like one word or one phrase. And again, I'm going to call people, and I'm going to start from the bottom, and I'm going to start with you, Om. One word or phrase that you would like to share. All right, take it away.
You said a word or a phrase. I gave,
Thank you, Om. I'm going to kick it to Laurel over at Spy Hop. Oh, 1 second. Let me unmute you. There you go. Laurel, now you.
Okay, super exciting. Everything.
Great. Oakley and Kate. Oakley, Kate. Ooh,
Sorry, I think it was cutting out a lot for us in that last part. I'm sorry. Can you hear
Sorry,
it?
just one word or phrase that's sticking with you.
Ooh, you go first, Oakley.
Determination.
Mm-hmm.
I like a word that sticks out for me. I'll actually take a term for Wendy, which was her an end to extractive media making. I know I stole that from other people too. I know that was going to be said elsewhere.
Great. I'm going to kick it over to Leslie.
Plans to action.
plans to action. Great. Dan. You're now unmuted.
Okay. I'd say inspired.
Great. Stacy.
Flippin' exciting.
Excellent. 1 second. Wendy.
Inspired was my go-to, but values and identities.
Values and identities. And then I'm going to kick it over to Chakka and Lucia. Share your one word, and then you have the rest of the half hour.
My one word would be inclusion.
Awesome.
And Lucia, do you have a word or phrase? I know you came in a little late.
My phrase is the miracle of technology. Hi, everybody. Hello, friends. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I literally just touched down in Mexico. So I'm in Mexico now, and I was like, must get to this conference call. So here I am. I'm sorry that I was a little late and I missed the first part, but I'm really excited to see all of you, so many familiar faces. So Jason and I were talking a few months ago, and he was really excited about a project that Free Spirit Media was doing called Drive Slow, and he asked if I wanted to, talk about it at this roundtable. Since that time, I've transitioned out of Free Spirit Media, and I'm now a freelance producer. So, and Chakka has taken over at Free Spirit Media as a new Pathways manager. So we're going to be tag teaming to talk about this really exciting project that we did at Free Spirit Media, how it relates to the broader like Pathways work and mission FSM, and how we see it sort of as like possibilities, models for like future iterations. So I'll just introduce myself really briefly, and then Chakka, I'll pass it to you, and you can pass it back to me. So I mean, I suppose I pretty much said, I was the Pathways manager at Free Spirit Media for 3 years. You'll hear a lot more about Pathways, but essentially it's a creative workforce development program that helps young people of color 18 to 24 like break into the film industry. And then I recently have transitioned out of Free Spirit Media, and I'm freelance producing, doing curriculum development, and project management. And I moved to Mexico a half hour ago. So that's me. I'm going to pass the mic to Chakka.
Hello, everyone. I am Chakka Reeves. I am the new Pathways manager. Filling some big shoes here. She left some big shoes behind, but I'm super, super excited about being involved with steering the vision for Pathways moving forward. I am an independent media producer and educational consultant by trade, and this is pretty much like the best job I feel like you can have right now, because I not only get to work with young people and think of creative ways to amplify marginalized voices, but workforce development is so important and something I'm so excited that I've heard repeatedly on this call. Chicago in particular has one of the largest Black youth unemployment rates in the country, and that is a part of the narrative that conveniently gets left out when people talk about gun violence here, the crime rates here, in addition to other aspects of the system that continue to not work for our young people. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about what we hope to do with Pathways moving forward.
Awesome. All right.
Really quickly, I realized, this is my bad, so my apologies for interrupting. I realized I did not get to Yolanda in the check-in for a word or phrase.
Oh no.
So let me kick it over to Yolanda real fast for the word or phrase. So Yolanda, one word or phrase. Sorry about that.
Oh my gosh, I was so into what she was saying. It suddenly left my mind. Oh, I remember now. I was going to say very cool. It's very cool work everybody's doing.
Perfect. Thanks you.
Jason.
Back to you, Chakka and Lucia. Sorry about that.
Cool. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to try to push through, a lot of you, I think, know pathways. I'm going to try to push through that pretty quickly so that we have more time to talk about the project Drive Slow and kind of get into a little bit of a discussion about, what, when doing sort of mixed independent and student-run projects, what we see as potential opportunities and challenges within that. So the core foundation of Free Spirit Media Pathways are these 4 pillars of knowledge, skills, access, and opportunity. So, doing that through workshops with industry mentors and professionals, building their knowledge of just the scope of the industry, what the opportunities are therein, from, commercial production to independent docs. Not a lot of opportunity in independent docs, but help developing hard technical skills at the same time, everything from here's how to wrap a cable to here's how to develop your personal mission statement and how to walk into a job with confidence. Access being a really critical factor of once students have these knowledge and skills, how are we actually getting them in the door to have opportunities that transform their next step, that they can have the best next step, but really making sure that we're working with industry partners and mentors to grant them access into spaces that they wouldn't have access in before. I never realized this, Chakka, but this is the workshop that you ran at Pathways before you were the Pathways manager on the right there. And this picture in the middle is actually it's actually on the set of the Chicago project, which was a pilot that shot in Chicago last year, written by Lena Waithe, who you may know from, she was a writer on Dear White People, and she's also, I can't remember her name, on Master of None. So she brought 5 students on the set of behind the scenes to really see what a real life set looks like. So, and finally, with opportunities, really opportunities to do things big, both getting paid opportunities to work in the industry, and then having opportunities to create, which is really, sort of what Drive Slow is about. Chakka, I'm going to just pass the mic back to you here, and I just sort of have our little overview of the core things that are core values of what we're trying to do for emerging creatives and pathways, if you want to talk a little more about that.
Certainly. As Lucia said, our program is focused on 18 to 24, 25-year-olds, depending on the program and also the money. Everybody has their own thing with that. It's really about not only preparing young people with knowledge, but also creating a economy in Chicago that empowers young people and from marginalized communities and that have marginalized voices. So for an emerging young creative, you have to think about the next, not just long-term opportunity, not just planning their career, but also short-term opportunities, because having an unpaid internship is a luxury. It is something that is really tied to having a particular socioeconomic status. One thing that we try to communicate with people who want to partner with FSM and with Pathways is, if we really want to create access and equity to media careers in this city, we have to think about how this work can support and employ. So yes, there is that learning and skill development component, but it's also very important if you're working with a young person from Lawndale, they're not going to be able to take the summer off and work for you with no money. It's just not practical. So not just opportunities, but this idea of an economy when we talk about pathways is incredibly important. So with our mission and core values, we partner with the Chicago Film Office that is a consistent partner, particularly when we're working with production companies and people that come to Chicago to have productions, working with them to not only create learning opportunities for the young people we work with, but also potential employment opportunities. So we work with a diverse, and it's scrolling.
I'll go back.
That's okay.
Back, there we are.
Okay. So building essential skills and knowledge to successfully navigate media fields, and then also being as cutting edge when we think about media as possible. So yes, there is crew work, getting involved with the union in Chicago. We have several partners in Chicago. So when we talk about mainstream industry, that's important. But we also want to acknowledge that we work with really creative, enterprising young people, particularly young people of color, really are guiding what is savvy, worthy, engaging content on the web. They're just not usually in a position where they can really monetize it. If you think about the last funny thing you saw on YouTube or Vine before it got shot down, a lot of it, those things are navigated by young people of color. So when we say industry, we're thinking about it in a lot of different ways, not just tracking them into traditional film and television roles, which is very important, don't get us wrong, but also this idea of media entrepreneurship, that a creator will not only know how to get a job in the industry, but to create jobs in the industry. So working with diverse media, our diverse media industry in Chicago with equitable representation is really, really important. Yes, we want to create a more inclusive landscape for young people of color. We do want to stress that we are thinking about it in terms of all the voices that are marginalized. So sexual orientation, sexual expression, ability, socioeconomic class, first language, things of that nature. So those are a little bit of our values. I'll turn it back over to Lucia.
Yeah, so I think that mostly sums up the one thing that, as like one of the things that we've been talking about in Pathways is, the vision for our students is for them to have financially sustainable, creatively fulfilling lives of their own choosing. So really like centering the agency, which is not generally a part of the workforce conversation. It's usually like workforce is defined by these external metrics that aren't really relevant, we feel, in the creative workforce field. And so really having people define their own metrics. And I actually wrote a lot about this in the last Youth Media Reporter. And so how we worked with our fellows to like hear more from them about what their desired futures were, and how what they saw as their steps to get there. So with that, I'm going to try to quickly transition into Drive Slow land. Okay, so we talked about before how like our core partners of what makes Pathways work is working with industry, partnerships within the industry of we bring in people that train students that are professionals in their field, employers that actually hire people on set or refer them for gigs or what have you, mentors that are both working with students on a one-on-one way and also in a broader way, and then other partner organizations are supporting different ways. So that's sort of like the rough view of the overview model. So I have to flip. I'm just going to go straight to this lovely website that was built on Leslie Etherly's platform there. A little shout out for Leslie. This is her platform, contexture.co. I recommend it for all of your student and non-student website needs. So this past year, we launched a new program called the Industry Pathways Certification Program. It's a 3-month program for young people to, actually, I'm going to pull up one last thing. Can you guys, you're seeing as I switch my screen, right? Okay, cool. That sort of took everything that we were doing in Pathways and really drilled down deeper. So we had a cohort of 10 students in the first iteration, and 4 units as part of the 4-month program. So the first unit was students really exploring different aspects of the industry, thinking about, where do I fit in? Like, do I want to focus on cinematography, or do I want to focus on producing or writing, or kind of just getting to know the industry more, at the same time that they're sort of exploring their own goals and desires as part of that. And then the second part is really intensive, full day production training, where they're learning, everything like wrapping a cable and how to, the difference between different types of lights, and how to talk on a walkie-talkie, stuff like that. And then the third unit was the production of Drive Slow. So Drive Slow is, in its first iteration, a pilot written by one of our former cohort members, now fellows, Terrence Thompson, who I'm just going to sort of scroll. Actually, let's do this. I can copy a link to everybody, huh? Is that right? How do I do that? Sorry, guys.
You can put it in chat, actually, and then
there it is.
Great.
Cool. So Terrence is a student, has been a student in Pathways for about 2 years, and he actually met a mentor that at a workshop that we were doing in a directing, sub workshop as part of the workshop. They connected. Terrence sent him a pilot that he was working on called Drive Slow, and the mentor, Alex, decided to pick it up, option the pilot. So he basically said, they signed on, they had an agreement with him and his production company that they would try to pick up the pilot and get it sold, and that they would sort of make that deal together, right? Meanwhile, when we were looking for a project for the Industry Pathways program, we saw Drive Slow as sort of the perfect opportunity in many ways. One, Drive Slow, which you'll see a little bit from the trailer in a second, is a short film really written from the perspective and the voice of a Black teenager from the south side of Chicago, about media representation of his neighborhood and his home and where he comes from. And we saw the need to transform the narrative, as a really, at the same time of making this beautiful story that was also really challenging the status quo that we see so often, not just in Chicago, but all across the country, about assumptions about our young people and who they are and how they think. And then also a chance to really to lift up this young filmmaker who we felt was very talented and was a part of the cohort and was an inspiration to his peers as well. And then to give the opportunity for students in the cohort to work on set of this project in a real legit set under the tutelage of industry professionals. And then finally to incubate something that potentially had legs to become something else. So that was what that was. So it was just sort of a perfect mix. So we actually had Terrence develop something that we could shoot in 2 days. And we worked with this co-production company, Runaway Train, to do the development and the pre-production. And in the cohort, we slotted, there was 10 students, we sort of, based upon what we knew about everybody, we slotted them in their roles. So we're like, okay, you're going to be the second assistant director, and you're going to be the assistant editor, and you're going to be a grip. But each department, just like any other professional set, was run by a department head who was an industry professional. Wait, I have to pull up something here. This is a, let me just go. Here we go. One thing that we really want to, so, you know, we really emphasize.
I think your screen is frozen, or at least it looks frozen on mine. I only see partnership support model. I'm not seeing the actual thing.
Oh, you don't see cast and crew diversity?
No, I do not see that. Does anyone else see it?
Hold on. Bring your shared window to the front. Hold on one second. I don't know what's going on here. Oh. I love Zoom, but I'm sometimes like, what's going on? Oh, that's why they're like, sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front of this. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Can you see it now?
No, I'm going to just make you host. There we go. Try it again now, Lucia. There we go.
Okay, cool. So what was really cool is that so one thing that was really important to us in the making of the film is that we represented that our crew was as diverse as the story that we were telling, and that we were creating opportunities for creators of color on set and creating an environment that is like not oftentimes the case on the film set. So all of our department heads were industry professionals of color, which was a really cool experience, both for the industry professionals that are like, wow, this is so different from every other set that I'm working on, and for the students who are working under those departments and getting to see sort of the opportunities and, like, you know, what's possible if they sort of keep going along that path. So just the whole experience of being on set itself was, I think, very transformative for everyone in the cohort. That's our cohort right there. So, okay. All right, moving along. So throughout the process, so in summary, essentially, that like the cohort being part of the pre-production process, being part of the planning, be sort of seeing what it actually took to put something together like of this scale, and then working on the production, and then being part of post-production too. Like they went to post-supervised screenings. Oh, and one thing also too is that way that we were able to produce something of such high quality is by leveraging our community partners and getting a lot of in-kind support. So we went to a post house and we said, hey, you guys want to be involved in this project and provide free services. We went to Leslie, we say, hey, you want to give us a free website, you know? And so that was really able to allow us to like bring the community together around supporting this project. So now we have a pilot that is going to be premiering at the New York Television Festival next month as one of 54 pilots. I don't know this, but I'm just going to say maybe the only pilot produced by a young person under 25. I'm just going to say that. Let's see if it's true. I'll find out if it's true. And we're continuing the distribution, and one of the young people that's in the cohort has been employed through Free Spirit Media to continue doing the development. So he built this website, and he and Chakka and I have a call next week to, talk about our digital strategy. So it's really sort of this ongoing process. So I'm going to play the trailer really quick. And then I know we don't have much time, but then we can just do a few questions. Oh no.
$500 words. You like really scared to get out here or something? Shit, maybe a little. Hey, Mom. Yes. You ever think about moving? From Chicago? From the South Side.
I might have some bad memories on the South Side.
but I have even more good ones.
There you go. Drive slow.
I was learning
Uh-oh. It's on a loop. Okay. I got a lot of stuff in. Questions? Thoughts?
I think personally this is really inspiring, Lucia. A couple of things just from my end. It's wonderful to see the intentionality with which that you have really done in the pre-production, even in terms of being able to lead up to pre-production and being able to like actually get to a place where you're doing this kind of product. So I just really want to say congratulations on that, because that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. That's years worth of actual cultivation. So I just want to say thank you for that. I did notice Om raised his hand. So Om, do you want to say something?
Sure, absolutely. I would love to see also Lucia's face. I'm in a space where I'm just seeing the actual presentation, and I can't get back to the grid. But I'm sure you can hear me. So in view of time, I wanted to just say congratulations, both Lucia and Chakka. This is beautiful work, and everyone as well. And that don't worry about the technical hiccups when Mercury retrograde. So it's expected. And I enjoyed it thoroughly and was quite inspired as you were speaking. Just taking a couple of different notes. There's a program in New York City that also is called Made in New York, and they used to have built-in programs where they would take people from who were in marginalized and oppressed backgrounds and train them for jobs in the industry. And they would actually gear them directly into create a bridge to actually prepare them for opportunities. And I'm going to be quite frank and honest. Unfortunately, what are so many people not happy about, which I personally don't like, is that there was only some opportunities to do PA work. There wasn't real production work, and that doesn't really cause those who are oppressed and marginalized to make impact and greater influence. So we need people who can actually be at these spaces so that they can trickle down a conversation in ways that are so much more powerful. And so it looks like with the way you guys are heading, you definitely have a clear direction, and it's very intentional. So that's some beautiful work. Just wanted to say I'm very inspired. And I also sent Chakka. I couldn't find you on LinkedIn, but I'm more than happy to take, if you have you on LinkedIn, be able to connect with you. But I also, Lucia, sent you a request, LinkedIn request. And if you need any assistance or help, I'm always capable of sharing insight ideas and anything that would help you along the way, both of you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I did notice a question from Stacy in chat, which is just curious about institutional partners. How do you connect with them, and what has been their reaction?
So Free Spirit Media has been developing like an individual donor base amongst the production community for pretty much since its inception. So we had a lot of those existing partners from the get-go, and then we built additional partners through Flash Forward, our internship program that we've been running that Chakka just completed this summer. Nice work. It's insane. It's like 22 institutional partners. So really, I guess just in the most basic level, it's like going out there and meeting people, building relationships, building on those relationships, establishing trust, and then like going in for sort of the big ask. But you know, we found that people like are very happy to come out, you know, as long as it's in a way that works for them. They want to be part of something bigger. And, you know, I think we've used a lot of language about like transforming the industry. Everyone sort of acknowledges that there's an issue in the industry. They just don't know how to shift it. So I think like Pathways is creating that opportunity for mentors to be part of that change.
Great.
Thanks, Lucia and Chakka. It's just like, it is such incredible work, and the really unique feature that you've added here that seems to be, from my perspective, is creating opportunities for young creatives to define their own way in the system, not only participating in it, but also changing it. Really beautiful. So fun. Oh my God, Chakka, now I understand why you're so excited.
I know.
So I'm going to do a little pitch. If you are excited about what you saw, there's a few things that you can do. One, definitely like our Facebook page, Drive Slow TV, and stay up to date on all the latest updates. And then if you are really interested and you would like to actually see the full pilot, shoot me like an individual message or email. Just promise you don't share it with anybody because we're trying to keep it under wraps. And then finally, if you want to talk more, if you're like really intrigued by it and you'd like to talk more about doing a screening for your young people, even maybe a virtual screening, reach out to Chakka and I. The filmmakers in the program are really excited to just like share their experience and their story with really people all over the country. But we just started with Chicago, so let us know about that too.
Yeah, Lucia, one of the things we do is screenings of videos at my organization, so I will definitely contact you about that.
I want to be honoring of time. It is 11:33. I tend to be very good at ending on time. And so I just want to say thank you. I also want to say what's coming next from the Alliance's perspective. One, the Alliance exists to support not just organizations, but people. And so what really inspired me specifically about this video roundtable is how we're engaging Lucia, who has already moved on from Free Spirit Media, still as someone in the field and someone still doing work within youth media, while also bringing on Chakka, who is now with Free Spirit Media. So I just kind of want to name that because I think often in kind of more professional type networks, when you leave your organization, you sometimes miss those professional connections. So the Alliance exists to support all of us in this industry, regardless of what our current hat happens to be. So thank you both, Lucia and Chakka, for being on this call and literally demonstrating for me from the Alliance's end what we're trying to achieve, which is, someone moves on, stays connected, and brings someone else from the organization on board as well. So that to me is beautiful. I'm really excited about our October video roundtable. It's going to not be on a Wednesday, so I personally work coffee in order to help pay my rent. And so I now work Wednesday mornings, except for this one. So our next video roundtable is going to be in October, and I have to move it to Friday because I now work Wednesdays in coffee. And so that video roundtable is going to be in collaboration with the National Association for Media Literacy Educators, and we're really going to be talking about Media Literacy Week. We know that in this particular day and age, media literacy is incredibly crucial, and NAMLE has been doing a really good job of trying to get their Media Literacy Week out there. Personally, I really have valued working with NAMLE as an organization because they really, even though I'm not in higher ed and I have a personal aversion to working with higher ed, NAMLE is really good at keeping it centered around the people in their field. Which is very similar to the way that I think the Alliance goes about our work as well, is really trying to be centered about the people that are in the field. And so I'm really excited to share some of the plans for Media Literacy Week, even do some brainstorming around this particular table about how we can support getting the word out about Media Literacy Week and what we can do to further more media literate communities, which really intersects youth media in general. So that's what's going to be coming from the October video roundtable. I will be shooting out a calendar invite shortly. I'm working out the exact issue with NAMLE right now, just to make sure that we're both on the same page when it comes to the date. So I will have that to you probably within the next week after I touch bases with Michelle. Again, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for being on this call. I so value all of your energy and spirit and everything that you contribute to make these video roundtables incredible. The contributions that you make into the issue, the way that you send folks to even things like the NAMLE conference in Chicago, and the continued way in which we're weaving very different and diverse identities and experiences and communities across this country into something that is stronger than its individual parts. So thank you all for being on this video roundtable, and I look forward to
Thank
staying with you all.
So great to meet y'all. So honored to be working with this group of professionals and souls. So thank you so much.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
I want to exit full screen. I'm like, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to download this chat. Save chat. Let's go. All right, bye now.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
I'm trying. Okay, bye.